Let's talk about Roman Turek. Roman Turek's time as a Calgary Flame and Roman Turek's overall career, and why he was an important piece to the Calgary Flames organization. This is Fat Guy Hockey and Wrestling, and thank you for tuning into the channel. Now, for some of the younger fans who are Calgary Flames fans who may not know who Roman Turek is, or may be bandwagon fans or came along later on in time, they may not know who Roman Turek is and the importance that he played with the Calgary Flames. Now, Roman Turek, for those who don't know, he was a goaltender, and at one time he was actually the starting goaltender for the Calgary Flames. Roman Turek was originally drafted in 1990 by the Minnesota North Stars with the 113th overall pick. He eventually ended up being part of the Dallas Stars goalie pipeline, which included guys like Ed Belter and Arthurs Urbe. Eventually, over time, he ended up fighting for the position of backup goalie and ended up winning the Stanley Cup in 1999 with the Dallas Stars, right behind Ed Belfour. Now, the Dallas Stars ended up trading him to St. Louis out of fear that the expansion Atlanta Thrashers were going to get him in the expansion draft, and they traded him for a second-round pick to St. Louis, who turned out to be rather nobody. As I pull up the stats here, the second-round pick, 6 years overall, was Dan Jankowski, which I have never heard of. During his time with the St. Louis Blues, Roman Turek became the starting goaltender. He led the St. Louis Blues to the President's Cup, the championship, for the most points in a season, which led to the obvious curse of the President's Trophy, or Cup, whatever you want to call it, where the top team in the league ends up losing because they end up losing to the first round, the 8th seed in the first round to the 8th seed San Jose Sharks. There was a lot of fluky goals, especially one that was shot from center ice by Olin Nolan, that a lot of St. Louis Blues fans credited Turek for them to losing in the first round. So he got a bit of a bad rep from fans who wanted him out. During that time, he won the Jennings Award for having the most shutouts in a season back in 2000. And the next following season, he ended up getting the starter position and led the team all the way to the third round before losing. He did face some stiff competition with backup goalie Brent Johnson, who eventually ended up taking his job. He did win quite a few different trophies and awards. He won the European Junior Championship in '88 with Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia used to be a country which had Slovakia and the Czech Republic in it, so it's the same country. He won in the World Junior Championship in '89 a bronze. He won in '90 a bronze, and then he won the gold medal, the World Championship in '96 in Austria. He was a world champion at that time, and it gave him a bit of credentials. And I'm just going for here because he did get the, like I said, the Jennings, and he was one of the better goalies at the time in the league. Eventually, what had happened is that because of some bad playoffs, and because of the whole fan pressure of wanting him out because of some fluky goals in the playoffs, and you know how fans can be, they decided to trade him to the Calgary Flames, which would have been a fairly big deal at the time. Calgary traded their 4th round 2001 pick, which was Igor Sashtin, who you never heard of. Wrong way. Calgary traded to St. Louis Fred Braffrey, who was their goalie at the time. They traded Daniel Zajuk, almost Kachuk, but not right. It's Zajuk. And they had Sergei Varlamov and a 9th round pick, which became Grant Jacobson. And Calgary in return got a 4th rounder, was Igor Sashtin and Roman Turek. Roman Turek played some time in Calgary and became Calgary's starting goaltender. Now, what ended up happening with Roman Turek, and the reason why he is, I'm just going to put this down here. The reason why Roman Turek became such a critical part of the Calgary Flames was not only was he their starter, but he ended up getting injured in 2003, 2004, and at that time Calgary didn't have much of a goaltending solution. They were just coming from pretty much their worst part of their history as a franchise, and basically all they had was Jamie McKinnon So they were bringing guys up from the AHL. They were trading guys left, right, and center. And eventually what ended up happening is that they ended up getting Mickey Kiprusoff with a conditional draft pick from the San Jose Sharks. And Mickey Kiprusoff went on to lead the team to the Stanley Cup Finals. So if it was not for Roman Turek, then the Calgary Flames never would have gotten Mickey Kiprusoff. And that is why Roman Turek should be remembered as a good player for the Calgary Flames. Because if Roman Turek would have stayed healthy that year, we never would have got Kiprusoff. Who knows, we never would have gotten to that Stanley Cup Final. And the team would have been completely different. And it could have been a lot worse going on. Kiprusoff was arguably the best goalie the franchise ever had. Maybe Mike Verdon can have that crown, but it's definitely a toss-up between the two. So that is why Roman Turek is an important part of the franchise, because if it was not for that injury, and it was not for that need to make a trade, Calgary would never have got Kiprusoff. And for those who ask, why did they give it to Kiprusoff after Kiprusoff became a starter, won multiple Vezinas and brought the team to the Stanley Cup Finals? Well, the reason why that was because at that time they had Evgeny Nabokov as their starter. They also had Vesa Toskala, and they had Mickey Kiprusoff. So they had multiple goalies, and they need to get rid of them. And it looked like Kiprusoff was going to be an all-right goalie, but a bit of a dud. And it turned out that he was one of the best goalies the franchise ever had. So that's why I remember Roman Turek. I did briefly look over his stats. He played about 140 to about 150 games, won about 115 of them roughly. He did have a really good win record, but he did have a lot of heat on him in St. Louis, and he was a backup in his time in Dallas. He also did have some issues with his pay, where his pay did get decreased. He also made payment plans with Calgary, because at that time Calgary was a failing franchise. And he did have his love for Calgary after he was done playing in the NHL, because there was a lockout. He did go to Europe. He played there for some time, and in 2010 he retired. So that was Roman Turek, one of the more forgotten goalies in Calgary Flames history, but because of that injury, he was one of the most important players that we ever had. Thank you for watching. This has been Fat Guy Hockey and Wrestling. I do appreciate you checking out the channel. Please leave a like. Don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for more Calgary Flames content. Go Flames, go.